Have you ever thought about how huge K-pop has become, where it's become so big that I'm starting to hear it at the gym? And, like, that's kind of cool. Gonna be completely honest, because I do like K-pop a lot. I just think it's like, whoa, that's, like, kind of wild that this genre has grown so large that it's entering, like, popular places, I guess. Or people who don't listen to K-pop are now going to have to hear it because they're at these places. But anyways, that has nothing to do with this video. Hello everybody, this is That Manga Dude, and we are here for another reading log. This is for February 2023, and we read one more volume than I had written down because for some reason my notes didn't save one of the volumes that I did definitely read in February. So I've written it down, and so that means I've read 41 volumes. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun video. A lot of great series that I got to check out this month. So really excited to talk about them, and let's get into it. Let's go. Okay, so the first 3 volumes, this is like a random fact of the day, they start with A, B, and then C. The third one is, it starts with the letter A technically, but like, in terms of alphabetizing the way I do it, it goes the letter C. So it's actually kind of weird. The first 3 volumes I did were in alphabetical order. Anyways, let's get to it. The first volume that I decided to read was Anonymous Noise Volume 1 by Ryoko Fukuyama. This is a really great first volume. I wasn't expecting a lot out of it. This is one of the series that pushed me out of my comfort zone because I actually did not like the art very much. When I first looked through it, first kind of like flipped through it a couple years ago, and was like, nah, it doesn't seem like something I would like. And lo and behold, picked up the first volume a couple months ago, read it this past month, and loved it. I thought it was great. Follows the story of this girl here on the front, who is friends with her neighbor and loves to sing with him, and just enjoys being around them, being in their company, when suddenly he has to move away, and she loses her singing partner. So it's about her story of trying to find that person again, trying to sing the song that will bring them back together. Yeah, so kind of an interesting premise. Definitely like a high school, I won't say romance. It's more like a high school drama series. Definitely a coming of age story as well. But really enjoyed this first volume. Kept me really into it throughout the entire volume. Like, that doesn't happen super often. There'll be times where, like, oh, there's a little bit of a lull, but this one really kept me captured the entire time. This is mostly like a, I won't say prequel, but like, it's definitely like the summation of what is going to be the main plot of the story, because everything in this volume, for the most part, it starts off when they're young, and then it enters into the high school part about halfway through. So yeah, I liked it a lot, and really excited to keep reading more of it. Up next, I decided to read Suge Tadao's Boat Life. This is supposedly volume 1. I don't know if this is a one-shot or if there's supposed to be multiple volumes, but this was brought to us by Floating World Comics. And yeah, this is a semi-autobiographical work by Suge Tadao, talking about a guy who ends up buying a boat and then tries to live on it, as the name suggests. But it really tackles the themes of aging and feeling kind of worthless as you proceed to age, and like how your relationships change with people, with friends, with your family. And yeah, it tackles a lot of themes. Definitely has a very much of an old school kind of style to it. It has a very unique style, I will say, that I actually did really like a lot. It is a very thick book. It took me 3 days, I think, to read it, on and off, because I don't tend to read volumes like that fast, I guess, anymore. I mean, I do here and there, definitely some volumes, but this one definitely took me a long time. There's a lot to read, and just a lot to kind of digest as he's talking and he's like, discussing with his friends, like what it feels like to be aging, especially in this new generation and stuff like that. So yeah, I did like it a lot, and if there is a second volume, I will be picking it up. Up next, I picked up and read the first volume of A Condition Called Love by Megumi Morino. Yeah, this is a really cute shoujo series. Wasn't expecting a hell of a lot out of it, but it's really adorable, really worth rooting for both of the main characters, and they're cute as hell. So, excited to get the second volume coming up soon, because this was a fun one. After that, I read one of my most hyped series that was coming out in 2023. This is Shoha Shoten by Akinari Asakura and Takashi Obata, and yeah, it was everything I had hoped it would be. Basically, it follows two stories. It follows the story of these two characters here on the front. This kid is kind of more of like a quiet kid at school, but he's like known, or he's like a sort of famous like radio writer in a way, where he writes into the show and they tell his jokes and he's really funny, or it's considered really funny. And this guy is aiming to become a famous comedian. So they end up teaming together in order to become famous comedians. And yeah, it's a really fun story. It's, I would say, some of Obata's best comedy art, because he does make funny expressions in other series. Bakuman is a good example, but I think Showa Shotani really pulls it together, has some absolutely hilarious moments in general, and I think it translates very well, a lot better than you would expect for a Japanese comedy series, because those tend to be hit or miss when it comes to translating in English. But I thought this was lovely, absolutely wonderful. Obata's always killing it, as usual, but definitely some of his best comedy work to date. And Asakura absolutely killed it with the script. Absolutely great writing, good plot. Really like the subplot of the dad, which if you've read it, you know, and if you haven't, I'll keep that up for you to read and check out. But yeah, love this first volume. Up next, I read volume 16 of Boruto. Masashi Kishimoto and Mikio Ikemoto. It's more Boruto. Don't have much to say about it. It's fine. Yeah, we get some more stuff with this guy, the new main villain, I guess. He's whatever. Yeah, I'm not expecting much from Boruto these days. It's just kind of like a pickup and enjoy it for what it is, and then put it down, and probably will reread it at some point in order to like talk about it in like a retrospect of some sort. But in the meantime, yeah, it's fine. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible. Up next, I decided to read Tatsuki Fujimoto Before Chainsaw Man 1721, of course by Tatsuki Fujimoto. So this is the series. This is a short story collection of stories that he wrote between the ages of 17 and 21. Of course, Before Chainsaw Man, as the title suggests, it's very on the nose. And yeah, I think it has a nice mix of stories. I didn't care for the first story too much, but I did like some of the other ones throughout this thing, especially like the school gun one. I'm trying not to say that specific word here, but yeah, it's good. I actually liked it a lot. I don't typically like Fujimoto's writing, but I think there's something a lot more raw about this specific one, because he's so young at this point. That yeah, it was enjoyable. I kind of did actually like it. I thought it was funny. Up next, oh, the complete opposite. Twin Star Exorcist Volume 15 by Yoshiaki Sukeno. Oh my god, this volume left on such a horrible cliffhanger, and I was on the verge of tears of what was going on. If you know, you know. If you don't, well, I guess you gotta go read Twin Star Exorcist, am I right? But yeah, Twin Star Exorcist continues to be remarkable. An absolutely great time. There's a very, very beautiful moment between Benio and one of the main villain characters, and it's just really interesting to see their interaction with one another, especially at a certain point in this volume. And ooh, it was so good I had to actually flip back and read it again, because I was just like, wow, this is like awesome. This is remarkable. This is like Benio's comeuppance. It's lovely. But yeah, great series. Definitely give it a shot. Up next, I decided to read the first volume of After Hours by Yuta Nishio. And yeah, this is a really fun, girls love series about this DJ girl and a girl who happens to meet her at the club. They have a little one night stand in a way, or it's kind of like a little fling. But then they end up like becoming friends and becoming closer, and she starts to incorporate herself into the DJ scene. It's pretty fun. It's very enlightening about the DJ scene, and I think it's actually very well thought out. From what I've heard from a lot of people, that is actually very realistic in terms of the DJ scene, in terms of like how not really cliquey, but how the community is very small, so they like tend to clump up in bunches, and a lot of people tend to know each other. So yeah, I really liked it. The art is very good. The writing is for the most part pretty good. I do think that the how they got together is a little bit idealistic, but it's still nice to see like gay characters be happy. Because I've noticed, especially after someone pointed it out to me, that it's very common for like gay characters to have some kind of tragedy happen to them, where they just tend to not be happy at towards the end of their stories, where it's always like some kind of somber thing. They never like there's always like an issue or a problem, but this one is a lot nicer about it. So yeah, I can appreciate that. Up next, Yakitate Japan, Volume 2, Takashi Hashiguchi. More absolute over-the-top goofiness about baking bread. Who would have thought that baking bread would be this ridiculous? But yeah, the series continues to be a whole lot of fun, and I'm really glad that I've been able to find volumes for cheap and very easily. So I'm definitely going to be reading more of this. After that, we got Kubo, Won't Let Me Be Invisible, Volume 5 by Nene Yukamori. And yeah, continue to really like the series. I like Kubo as a character a lot, especially like her family. Her family's great. And of course, the main character is also pretty cool as well. But yeah, I think Kubo really steals the show. She's a very entertaining character and is very well, I would say, is getting better written throughout the story. So it's nice to see her progression throughout the story. It's, yeah, it's cool. It's very nice. It's very lighthearted and fun. After that, I read Volumes 2 and 3 of Candy and Cigarettes by Tomonori Inoue. It's kind of slow about picking up picking up Volume 2 specifically, but yeah, reading through Volumes 2 and 3, wow, that was a lot of crazy stuff happens, and a lot of like reveals and plot twists that happened especially with some of the main characters was definitely not what I was expecting, but yeah, super cool. Action was amazing and ridiculous at the same time. It's just overall just a really nice, fun time. And I really like their dynamic a lot. It continues to grow throughout the series, so yeah, really enjoying that a lot as well. Okay, My Love Mix-Up Volume 6 by Aruko and Wataru Hinekure. Yeah, really fun. Continues to be lovely. I'm really liking that the main characters are like actually getting a lot of development, especially with their relationship. I think it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's fun. I'm glad there's some progression because it did kind of stall for a little bit towards the middle, but we are really starting to see their relationship grow significantly, I'd say, and I'm really glad that it is because I know the series is going to be over soon in English. I think there's only like 3 or 4 more volumes, so definitely will be very sad when it ends, but yeah, this has been a really fun time. I've been loving it a lot. And the last part of this stack, this is The Girl That Can't Get a Girlfriend by Mieri Hiranishi. I've talked about this series in length in both the pickups video and in the FVI, so go give that a shot. Go take a look at those videos, because I've talked about this series at length at this point. But yeah, just to give you a nice TLDR, this was a really fun autobiographical series about Mieri Hiranishi's journey slash, I don't know, I guess journey is the best way to put it, of trying to find a girlfriend and the difficulties of her thoughts and examples and all this crazy stuff that happens. Definitely feels fictional at points, but like you can definitely tell that it's genuine, it's honest, it's real, especially at certain parts towards the end. It was just like, oh wow, that's really painful. But yeah, it was really fun, really funny too. So really like Mieri Hiranishi's work. I really hope they put out more at some point because I'd love to check it out. Alright, into this next part, we have My Special One, Volume 1 by Momoko Koda. This is the same manga behind the series No Longer Heroine, and it's, yeah, this was fun. I actually enjoyed it a lot. Basically follows this girl who, like, refuses to fall in love, and then ends up meeting this idol who, is, like, frequenting her restaurant, and, how she slowly but surely becomes like way into him, and it's very out there, it's very weird, it's very odd, but it's fun. I don't know, I enjoyed it. We'll most likely be picking up the second volume when it decides to come out. Alright, up next, I read volumes 3 and 4 of Wand Dance. So, funny story about this is, so I picked up volume 4, right, and I was like going to start reading it, and like read the first couple pages, and I was like, what is going on? I don't remember any of this happening. Like, when did they do the high school, like, meet? And then I was like, oh, snap, I didn't read Volume 3, did I? So I had to go back and read Volume 3, and then, of course, read into Volume 4. But, yeah, this series continues to be absolutely remarkable. I did a whole video about, like, why you should be reading it. And, yeah, just to give you a short synopsis, it's gorgeous, it's done really well, the characters are very likable, and I think its explanation of dance is done remarkably, especially for a manga series, because I feel like you can have that difficulty of like trying to over-explain instead of just letting like the manga itself tell the story through the art. So it's got a nice balance of both, and yeah, just remarkable, honestly. Go give the series a shot. Go give my video a shot too if you're like still feeling a little bit uneasy about picking up this series, because yeah, this series is fantastic. It's absolutely remarkable. Up next, I read Polar Bear Cafe, the Collector's Edition, Volume 1 by Aloha Higa. I talked about this at length as well in my FVI, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I thought it was really fun. Go check out the FVI video if you want more, like a longer description about how I felt about this series. Alright, up next, Komi Can't Communicate, Volume 23, Tomahita Oda. I usually like to gloss over Komi because it's like most of the time it's just a whole lot of nothing. Very episodic for the most part. There is like some story beats that happen every once in a while, but Komi Can't Communicate, Volume 23. We finally got somebody's confession. I'm not gonna say whose, but Mamma Mia, hallelujah, blessings upon you and your family. We did it. Super excited to have it happen, and really excited to see Volume 24 happen, because yeah, this was probably one of my favorite volumes yet. Of course, because of the culmination of this entire plot is finally reached a head at this volume. So, yeehaw. Up next, read Marmalade Boy Volume 1, the Collector's Edition by Wataru Yoshizumi. And yeah, this was fun. I really enjoyed this series. I love these color pages. I know I said that during the pickups video, but like, yeah, the color pages are absolutely lovely. Story is totally whack. Basically, like, these two are suddenly going to become like half brother, half sister, because their parents met each other during like some party / I think it was a cruise. And basically the husband on his side falls in love with the mom on her side, and then the dad on her side falls in love with the mom on his side. So absolutely bonkers. They decide to basically marry each other and then move in with one another. So it's super whack, ridiculous, stupid, but it is still a good time. I don't know. I did really enjoy it, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Hopefully not in a weird way. That's all I can say. Up next, Sakamoto Days Volume 6, Yuto, Suzuki. Holy moly, we got a hype fight. I almost said a bad word. I don't say bad words on this channel. But we had a super hype fight, especially if you know the tower fight. Holy crapola. That fight really cemented it in like my head as like just an absolutely bonkers action, balls to the wall series. You never know what's going to happen. Something ridiculous will happen, and then they'll make it somehow feel somewhat realistic, even if it's not realistic at all. But yeah, this was a really great volume. We get to see a lot of the characters get to do a lot of cool stuff, especially Sakamoto himself. Yeah, loved it. It was great. It was lovely. Up next, Mission Sakura Family, Volume 3 by Hitsuji Gondaira. Another series that I was like, yeah, really like this. They introduced like a whole another like kind of like spy for the government, or like spies for the government, so it's really interesting to see that. And we get to see our main character attempt to learn from those spies. It's weird, and yeah, it's just been very enjoyable. I do actually like this series quite a bit, and excited to get the next volume because it's been a fun time. And after that, I read Hell's Paradise Volume 9 by Yuji Kaku. This series rocks. This volume rocks. It had a surprising death scene that I was not expecting, and totally blew me away. Kind of knocked the wind out of my sails. I was like, oh man, not like this. But the series continues to be absolutely amazing, and shows that like any character can die, and that's actually kind of cool. That like they're willing to risk that for pushing the story along, because I think there are some mangaka who are hesitant to kill off characters, because they're like, oh, what if the fans like don't like it? But like, man, Yuji Kaku doesn't give a crap. He's just like, die, bam, and then like that's it. So yeah, the series continues to be absolutely remarkable and amazing, and has beautiful art as always, and the story continues to be rockin'. So excited to be reading more of this soon. Up next, I decided to read the one-off Sky Grazer by Masakazu Ishiguro. So basically follows, it's like a short story collection, kind of, that follows like the story of this like apartment complex that is surprisingly dense and very confusing, and when people walk in, they get like, don't know where to go and stuff like that. So only the people who live there truly understand it. And yeah, it was not necessarily my thing. I think it's got some like cool parts to it. I do like some of the characters as well, but I just could not vibe with the story very much. Definitely has like a sci-fi elements to it that I don't think necessarily work. Gets a little weird. Doesn't really necessarily make sense to me. But I can see like why people do like it. I do think there are some like absolutely crazy parts, and definitely some really funny parts as well. So yeah, it's good, just not really my thing per se. So I don't know if necessarily I'm going to be picking up the other series, which I believe is Heavenly Delusional or something like that, or Heavenly Delusion or something like that. I think that's the name of it. But yeah, it was good. It was fine. And up next, Mermaid Scales and the Town of Sand by Yoko Komori. I talked about this series at length as well in the FBI. But just to give you guys some context, I love this. This was absolutely lovely, super wonderful. People should really be picking this up like right now. It has beautiful, unique art, a actually very well crafted story with a lot of likable characters that all seem to have a nice relationship with one another. There's no characters I would say that are like absolutely horrible or like terrible. It's just like a really nice coming of age story. Beautiful stuff. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it without trying to spoil the story, but yeah, I loved this. This was great. Alrighty, up next, I read the second volume of Honey and Clover, my voice totally gave out for some reason, by Chika Umino. Follows the story about a bunch of art college students and their daily lives in a way. It's funny, but has some really nice moments between characters, especially with characters growing up, and a lot of interesting themes that are tackled, whether that's like responsibilities or like the amount of pressure that's put upon you to do well at a variety of things, and also relationships with people who you shouldn't necessarily have relationships with. So overall, it's just done really well, and the art is super cute as well. Very fun, very nice. It's done very well. Really excited to be reading the next couple of volumes when I can get a hold of them. Up next, I read my favorite series to say on this show, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, Volume 7 by Kanehito Yamada and Tsukasa Abe. Another great volume. Finally finished up like the mage exam, or the first class mage exam and stuff like that. So yeah, really exciting stuff. See some characters get some growth, and we get to get some more context about some of the other characters as well. Yeah, overall just really lovely, really fun. Been enjoying the series a whole lot. I've talked about it quite a bit, especially throughout this channel, throughout this show. And yeah, it's great. It's a good time. Definitely give it a shot if you're into high fantasy stuff. Alright, up next, this is the most that I read. This is Hoshin Engi. This is volumes 9 through 15. Yeah, this was a lot to read, and a super fun time all throughout all of it. Follows the story of a character named Taikobo Susu, who is a Sendo, aka aka a character who has like this ability to use like magical powers. They live for a long time, and have given up their humanities, sort of. But he gets sent to the human world in order to defeat somebody named Daki, and also to complete something called the Hoshin Project, which is to basically collect the souls of 120, somewhere around there, other Sennin that are scattered throughout Earth, and in order to complete the Hoshin Project. What the Hoshin Project is a mystery to Taikobo, but he does it anyways because he is loyal to his island of Kongrong. But yeah, I've talked about the series at length a lot. It is bonkers. It is crazy. It is a it is a Chinese political theater war sci-fi fourth wall breaking comedy series. It is so much packed in this, and it's done very, very, very well. So yeah, really enjoyable stuff. We go through the Sennin War in the middle of this. We defeat one of the big baddies at some point. One of these volumes against Chokome. So yeah, a lot of great stuff. A lot of awesome fights. A lot of awesome battles. A lot of really, really sad moments as well. So overall, it was a great time. Really loved it. Alright, up next, something I didn't really like that much. This is Boys of the Dead. This is by Tomita Doji. This is a short story collection, basically of like BL stories in the zombie apocalypse. And it's just, maybe it's just me, but for me it was a little bit too graphic, a little bit too heavy on some of the themes, where there's a lot of focus on the big R word, which I'll throw up somewhat, like, it'll be like somewhat censored, but you'll get the idea, and it just has a lot of triggering themes. Usually I'm not super bothered by these things, but it was like a little bit too much for me, where it was like, it felt like it was too much of a focus of the story, where I felt like we could have had a little bit more than that. I don't know how else to explain it, unless you read it for yourself, but just know, yeah, there's going to be a lot of very, very dark themes in this, but the art is very good, and I think that the pacing is also pretty decent as well. I just could not vibe with the story, or the stories, I guess, that are told throughout the story, told throughout this volume, so it's not really my thing, but if you like it, more power to you. Up next, read the third volume of Colorless by Cant. This series has been super awesome, and I always talk about its like lovely inclusion of color throughout this entire like volume, and actually all the volumes, but this has a really, really awesome fight in it as well, between this guy in the front and our main character. So yeah, it goes crazy, goes like absolutely whack. I'm really, really excited to see where this goes, because I've been loving this series. Alright, up next, read 2 volumes of Kakaishi. This is volume 6 and 7 by Yellow Tanabe. Yeah, and once again, another enjoyable series that I really, really enjoy. It's been super fun to keep reading Kakaishi finally, because it's been hard to find some of the volumes, mostly because I believe like almost all of them are out of print for the most part. So I've been finding them at used bookstores and here and there, and slowly but surely trying to build out the collection. And hopefully we'll have all of it at some point. I can't say soon, but you know, you can dream, right? But yeah, this continues to be a lot of fun. We finally get to meet some of the more of the Shadow Corps, who is like a team of operatives that have been introduced throughout the first couple volumes, but now we start to get to actually meet some of the other people as well as our main character's brother. We get some more context about what he's doing behind the scenes, so that's cool. Excited to check out more of it. Alright, now one that was very weird. This is Blitz, Volume 1 by Harumo Sanazaki, Cedric Biscay, and Daitaro Nishihara, featuring Gary Kasparov. So this is a series by Ablaze Manga, very weird, to say the least, but basically follows the story of this main character here, who gets into chess because there's this girl he likes, and he wants to prove himself because he's like, yeah, I'm a big boy, I want to flex, and basically the captain of the chess team / chess club is like, if you beat me in a chess game, you can join the club, and he's like, alright, so he tries to learn chess in like a couple months, and lo and behold, he gets booty handed to him, in a pretty close match, considering everything, but yeah, so he's feeling all down in the dumps, and then he meets this guy, and the guy gives him like this like machine that allows him to learn all this stuff about chess. Bad accident happens, and suddenly he has the ability to like almost like read people's minds and stuff like that. It's very out there, it's very weird, but honestly, it's really fun. All the chess stuff is very realistic for the most part, like in terms of like how they learn, how they play and stuff like that. So it's done well. Gary Kasparov, I guess, had a hand in it. And if you don't know who Gary Kasparov is, he's a chess master, known most famously for playing against the computer, and I believe he lost, but it was a very close match considering. But he says that this is a very, for the most part, realistic interpretation of chess, so that's cool to hear. And yeah, it was enjoyable, and I'll be picking up the second volume when it comes out. Alright, up next, I read the second volume of Mob Psycho 100 by One. I decided to pick this series back up because I've had the volumes for a while, and I've just been kind of sitting on it because, like, man, I was not digging the art. I just, like, the art is not great. It's not great. But there is something that is a little bit charming about it, and I think there was like a whole that Mob Psycho season 3 left after. So I wanted to basically go back through the series and see how the original manga was. And yeah, the anime was very faithful. So this just like covers the fight between the blonde dude, Mr. Cactus Head himself, and yeah, it was a lot darker than I remembered too, because I don't remember the first season being this dark. But yeah, this volume was crazy to say the least. But fun stuff. If you can get past the pretty rough art, there's still a great story to be had in here. One is a very, very good writer, especially writing Mob and all the people around him. It's done really well. That's all I can say. And the last volume that I read in February 2023 is Canis, Deer Hatter, Volume 2 by Zach. Yeah, this was a very good read. Nice little conclusion, I think. I don't know if it's a conclusion or if it's like just like a second part, but it is a second volume to this story. Follows the story about this Hatter guy, who is, yeah, really good at his like work, but he's also like kind of like a prude in a way, kind of a jerk to a lot of the people around him. But he meets this guy here on the streets, and he tells him, "Hey, come work for me." But a lot of crazy stuff happens where like he has a gang background in a way, and yeah, so the second volume wraps everything up in a nice little bow. We get to have a conclusion to all the gang stuff that happens within the first volume, bringing into the second volume, and we get to see this beautiful connection that arises between him and him. And yeah, it was definitely a mess, but it was a good mess. I enjoyed it a lot. The art is absolutely gorgeous, if you can't tell. I mean, this slip sleeve is beautiful, but the art inside is beautiful as well. Definitely a worth giving it a shot. It's a really interesting BL series. Just as a note, it's also a boy love series. Definitely not what I was expecting, but I definitely enjoyed it a lot. And that is going to be it for this video. That is everything that I read in February 2023. What did you read in February 2023? Let me know in the comments below. And you know what to do. You can like, you can comment, and you can subscribe, because those are all awesome things. And if you are already, you're amazing. And if you're not, and you didn't do any of those things, you just watched a good chunk of this video, so thank you for doing that, because views actually matters, sorta. But thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.